Hi, hello, and welcome. This is John. I recently had the joy of discovering the happy world of Fear and Hunger 1 and 2. Like everybody else, I died over and over and over again. So I thought I'd put together a few spoiler-free pieces of advice and tips for anybody trying to get into the game and wanting to explore Preheville with a little bit less frustration. Alright, so here we go. Okay, tip number 1 is you can run now. I did not know this for the first dozen times I died trying to get to the city, but with the action button you can run. So in the first game you had the ability dash, which could be unlocked from the very beginning of the game. The problem is that it was found out to be one of the most overpowered beginning bonuses you can get. A lot of players would always pick dash at the very beginning of the game. The end result was that it just made it very easy to get away from the different monsters and threats in the dungeon. So in the second game, rather than giving you an unlockable ability of dash, every character can run and has a stamina bar. So you're going to want to pay attention to that. The monster speeds were also adjusted. Running makes it pretty easy to run away from most monsters in the game, but there are a couple of tougher, higher level enemies you will encounter that can run as fast or slightly faster than you. So it's not going to get you away from everything, but it is something you're going to want to know, especially if you're coming in from Fear and Hunger 1, where there wasn't a run button. When you start a run on the train all the way to the left, before you get off, you'll see a map on the second sofa. Be sure to pick it up. It's very useful and helpful to navigate the area, and at different points your character will mark locations on the map. So be sure to pick it up. Also, the couch that you find the map on is your first save point. You can safely save the game here without having to worry about any monsters wandering upon you. Talking about how the saving works, in part 1, if there was still a monster on the floor that was wandering around, you would get a coin toss to determine if it found you or not. So the coin toss has been removed. If there's a monster in the area map, it will find you and attack you. But if the area is clear, there's no coin toss to worry about. Although you should note that resting will advance time in the game. The festival gives you 3 days, and each day is broken up into 3 parts: morning, afternoon, and evening. Different events will occur at different times, but each time you rest, you advance time forward 1 segment. So you should have 8 opportunities to save the game by resting. There are other ways to save the game without advancing time, but I'll leave it to you to find those ways in the game. Misery loves company, and Fear and Hunger 2 is a little bit more manageable in terms of difficulty if you have help. There is one contestant that you can recruit into your party right from the get-go, and that's Abella, the red-headed engineer. You can find her by heading east and then north to tunnel number 7. On the way there, you should stop by the 2 houses by the train to pick up at least 1 unit of rotten meat. As you get closer to the bunker, you will hear some barking and be attacked by 2 dogs. A lot like Moonless in the first game, if you talk to them, you have the option of being able to feed them some rotten meat. Although in this game, instead of allowing you to recruit the dogs, it will distract them for long enough for you to land 2 blows. If you're attacking the torso, that should be enough damage to take them out. If you find 2 pieces of rotten meat, then you can pretty much get to the bunker with no danger of taking damage. Once you get to the bunker, just open the hatch and Abella will join your party permanently. So she can be with you till the end of the game. She has a very useful ability of the wrench toss, and she's a very decent melee fighter. So the early game is a lot easier if you have a second person in your party. Fear Hunger 2 emphasizes combat a little bit more than part 1. So there's also another mechanic to the combat system that gives it a little bit more depth, and that's rev. So in the combat menu, you'll see the option to rev up. What that is that every turn you generate 1 unit of rev that you can then use later to power up an attack. If you use 1 unit, you get a damage bonus. If you use 2 units, you get a bigger damage bonus. But if you wait to fill up your rev bar and use all 3 units, not only will you do more damage, you will also do 2 attacks. So using rev to deliver a little bit extra damage or just to double your attacks can be very useful in trying to get enough damage in to either take an enemy out or prevent a monster from being able to carry out an attack on you and your party. In accordance to the new setting, there are now guns in the game. In combat, they function as fairly powerful weapons, but what I think is where they really shine is using them in the overhead map view. that allows you to basically soften up an enemy before you fight him. So in this footage, you can see the half cocoon man has already lost his arms before even beginning the fight. And if you apply enough damage, you'll be able to kill the monster before he even gets to you and skipping the fight. The Luger applies a fair bit of damage, but the rifle and the shotgun are far better at dismembering enemies. And you get a message at the bottom of the screen telling you how much damage you did. So keep an eye on it because there are a couple enemies that can shrug off bullets. Also, you gotta keep an eye out for there are gonna be a couple enemies that can shoot at you, but generally they're pretty weak and you can just run up to them and take them out. The dismemberment system is back, and it's largely the same, but this is just a tip for new players. When I was playing Fear Hunger 1, anytime I lost a limb, I would go back to my last save and reload, because losing a limb just has such an impact on your gameplay. But it really does matter on which character gets dismembered. If any other members in your party lose a leg, it won't affect the movement of the party. The party movement speed is dictated only by the limbs on the main character that you're using. Also, in Fear Hunger 2, there are more opportunities to regenerate limbs. In terms of losing arms, losing one will only prevent you from using two-handed weapons, and especially in the early game, most of the weapons are one-handed. So you can actually stand to lose a few arms, and it won't really impact your party's combat abilities. Oh, and a little curiosity of note, Marco can still apply full damage with no arms. So even if he's lost both arms, he's still somehow able to deliver his jab attacks. A new mechanic to Fear Hunger 2 is collecting soul stones by presenting offerings at the imperfect ritual circles. I made it to the end game before realizing this. Soul stones are extremely useful because it's how you're able to unlock further abilities as you collect souls from the other contestants or grow your affinity towards any of the gods in the game. So the way it works is by collecting, let's call them trophies, that you get the option to when you examine a corpse after getting the bone saw. So you will grow used to hearing the sound effect that plays a lot, since you'll be doing this over and over again. But if you present 3 trophies to the imperfect ritual circle, you will get 1 stone shard fragment per. So you need 3 that you can then craft into a soul stone that you can use at the hexen to unlock more abilities. If you clear the early areas of the game and collect all the heads, you might even have a surplus of soul stones, and the extra abilities might make your run a little bit easier and less frustrating. Please subscribe